Hey everyone, welcome to another session of Conversations with Courageous Cancer Warriors. And today, oh my goodness, I wish I had met this beautiful soul so many years ago. So Kim Hamer is here with us, and she is an HR consultant. She also has an amazing book called 100 Acts of Love, The Girlfriend's Guide to Loving Your Friend Through Cancer or Loss. And we're going to talk all the things about support around the workplace today and what to say, what not to say. And I know that we've all had experiences where we're like, what did you just say to me? So Kim, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited.
Lori, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
So tell me, so you're in HR.
Yes.
And you are now really taking the time to support people in the workplace on how to deal with their coworkers or their loved ones, correct?
Yes. Yes. So, as some of your listeners probably know, you've gone and you've told your boss that you have cancer, and they have, of course, most of them have lost their mind at some point, right? So they're either extremely empathetic or they're like, oh, okay, so what does that mean for the project that you're working on, right? So they kind of get down to the nuts and bolts. But usually after that, most managers aren't trained. They don't know how to handle it. And honestly, your cancer is a crisis for them. It's a crisis in your life. It's a crisis in their life. I call cancer an entanglement because it's not, it's not one person fighting. Your cancer involves a lot of different people at different levels. And your workplace is one of them. So the manager comes in, they don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. I've seen managers do everything from take everything off a person's plate, even though they're going to continue working, to just treating them like, hey, you know what, you got a job to do, you got to get it done. So it runs the gamut. And I think that's mostly because managers don't have the skill set, have not been taught, have not figured out how do you approach this situation, not just with you, the person with cancer, but with the team. And so that's what I help organizations do, is understand how do you continue to have productivity and still be compassionate and empathetic.
Yeah, absolutely. And it couldn't be a more important topic. So until you're in the shoes of actually having cancer, right? You none of us understand, and we don't want you to
Yes.
understand, right? Like we don't
Right.
want you to
Right.
get this.
Right.
But it's really hard that you're going to have some good days where you feel great. You're going to have some bad days where you just feel terrible. You're lucky you got out of bed. So how do you approach that conversation with the managers and the other staff that they're working with?
Sure. I think that's a great question. And so if you're the one with cancer, you really kind of want to think about a couple of things. One, before you go in, and some people, they learn they have cancer, they go in, they don't even know what stage it's at, right? They just don't know anything about it. They're just so freaked out. They feel like they need to tell. Other employees, you may be the one who likes to gather all the information before you go in. Either way, you want to make sure that your manager understands this is going to be an ongoing conversation. It's not like, hey, I have cancer, this is the plan, we're good, high five or fist pump, right? That's not what it is. So I always recommend that you take the moment to understand exactly what your cancer is, what kind it is, what stage it is, what the side effects of the treatment you're going to be getting are, right? Because some treatment's going to be chemo and you're going to lose your hair. Some treatment's going to be chemo and you're not going to lose your hair. Some treatment is going to be radiation. Some are going to be surgery. Some are going to be all three, right? So the gamut of the type of treatment is huge. Knowing what that is before you have a conversation with your boss will be really helpful, because that's the main question that your boss is going to have. They may say it out loud, they may not, but their first reaction usually is, if you have a good relationship, is, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening to you. And their second reaction, either in their head or out loud, is, oh my gosh, what are we going to do all the projects that you're working on? Right.
Right.
And you may be insulted because you're like, I'm talking about fighting for my life and you're worried about projects.
Right.
But keep in mind that your manager's job is to produce. He or she has been hired to get your team to produce something. And so that is going to be one of their concerns. It doesn't lessen or cheapen their concern about you as a human being, but they have to think about it in the big scheme of things. So, going in, knowing what your treatment plan is going to be very helpful. Most of the time people hear cancer and we think bald, not able to work, nauseous, right? We think all those stereotypes, and some of those stereotypes, as we know, are accurate. but others of those stereotypes are not. So if your stereotype is not the bald, nauseous person, you're actually going to have to take the time to educate your boss. So understand what your treatment is, then go into your boss and say, I have this disease. This is the treatment. And you don't have to go into specifics. It's none of their business. You can say, I'm going to need Wednesday and Thursday off. I'll be able to work a half a day Friday. You can say, I've talked to HR, you can preload the conversation, or you can go in and just be kind of like, I have cancer. I'm freaked out. I've been thinking about, what I want to do and the treatment, but that's the first part. I could go on and on about this because the second part is really understanding what messaging you want. You get to control your message. But the thing is, once that message is out, you can't take it back. So if you don't want anyone on the team to know that you have cancer, you either, if you know your boss is a good secret keeper, you can tell your boss, I don't want anyone to know. If you know your boss is a gossiper, you say, I have this illness and these are the days I'm going to need to go out. So you get to control the message. A great example of what I recently did for a client is she was okay with everybody knowing that she had cancer. What she was not okay with was people talking to her about her prognosis, about the kind of cancer she had, about whether or not she was going to live or die, right? Because people ask crazy questions.
Crazy.
So that was the message that she sent out through her manager. So she sat down and really thought about, and the one thing she said she really didn't want, she said, you can send meals, do not stop by my house unannounced. And please note none of this. Oh, poor Bubby, how are you? Right? You all know the big puppy eyes, they reach out to touch you and soothe you, and it's full of pity, and you just want to punch somebody. So
I'm literally rolling my eyes because I have to be really transparent here. I was so freaked out. So I've worked in oncology for 20 years. I know everything there is to know about all different cancer types because it's what I'm an expert at. And when I found myself at the other side of the table, I was so freaked out. But what I couldn't be with was other people, right? I tested the waters and I had some, oh, well, at least you're going to get a really great boob job.
At
right?
least.
Oh. At least, right? Yeah. And then I had people, say to me, well, it's because you've never had children. And I'm like, what is happening? So I literally kept it a secret. There was only certain people in my life that knew for over a year until I was able to however people were going to come at me, I was able to emotionally handle it. Yes. And that's really one of the things that I want people to hear from your message. That's exactly what you're saying is you are in control of what information you provide. And the other thing too, that I would really like to talk about is the resources available like FMLA, right? What options do people have when you are diagnosed?
So in this country, we have the Family Medical Leave Act, which basically protects your position for up to 12 weeks total. So you don't have to take 3 months off all at once. Let's say you have a treatment plan that involves you getting treated every Wednesday or Thursday, and you know that the treatment's going to take you out for 4 days. So that means Friday you're out of work, Saturday, Sunday, and maybe you can work half a day on Monday towards the afternoon. You can use FMLA, you can use part of those hours that you have to protect your job so that your boss can't say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry, hold on, bye. That's my daughter. So that they can't say, hey, you're not doing the work and we need to, you're not showing up. So you're going to lose your job. Right. Now there's a couple tricks about FMLA. The organization has to have 50 people and you have to have worked more than 1,250 hours and been in the organization for a year. So if you're not in that position, that can get a little tricky, but I'm all about transparency. Give the organization an opportunity to take care of yourself, unless your gut instinct, right? We all have, sometimes we're in companies that are just not good places for us to be. And you know that if they find out that you have this disease, they are going to find a way to get rid of you. Yeah. So in that case, transparency may not be the best option. But again, the problem with this is that, the options are so variable depending on your certain situation. But there is FMLA. There's also the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, which protects those with cancer as well. So that means that your organization has to make a reasonable accommodation. And that reasonable accommodation may be the day after chemo, you need 2 hours in the morning before you can get to work. So you're getting to work at 9 or 10:30 instead of 8:30. And the good thing and the bad thing about it is the word reasonable is not defined. And it depends on the size of the organization. It depends on the ability of the organization to support you, what they can spend out of their budget. So if you find yourself with cancer and you need a wheelchair, I mean, of course, in this country, everything is supposed to be wheelchair accessible. If they are not wheelchair accessible, then that's something you can think about asking. But if it's a small company and they're going to have to spend $15,000 to build a ramp, that might not be a reasonable accommodation. So I think those are the two big things that people need to know about. Within organizations, there's lots of things that I've seen companies, seen people donate their time off. Like we all kind of hold on to our time off. We don't take vacations and they know someone needs it, so they can donate their time off. But that depends on the organization. That depends on the state. So there's lots of other little ways that organizations can support you when you have cancer.
Yeah, I love that. And it's such important information, because a lot of times we're so caught up in the process, right? The treatment process, the doctor's appointments, the fear, everything, the way that we're feeling, that we forget that there's resources out there for us. The other thing too that I would love to talk about is, if you know that your environment is not going to be conducive for you telling them, like you said, they're going to come and they're going to like squeeze you and touch you and be like, oh, right. Yep. Like the pity card does not work with a lot of us.
Yes.
What is something that you would advise for people on how people can potentially have those conversations?
So, I think you need to find your people at work, right? Because what this woman did, she didn't want to tell anybody that she had cancer, but she was okay with other people telling people. Right. As long as the message was, hey, don't do the pity pat thing with her.
Yeah.
So I think it is, finding your people. Hopefully that's your boss. And so in a really great situation, what happens is you have the conversation with your boss, and then you say to your boss, this is how I want, or your boss is supposed to say to you, how do you want to message this? And then you say to your boss, this is what I'm thinking. And he says, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have a team meeting without you there, and we're going to deliver the news. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into this, right? Because your boss has to be willing to let people go into shock and kind of like, oh, there's going to be tears. There's going to be fear. Your cancer brings up a lot of things for other people.
Yeah.
So really kind of understanding that and keeping that in mind. So, there's going to be that. There's going to be people who are going to immediately want to say, if you need anything, let me know. And we'll talk about why that is the least helpful thing to say. And we'll talk about that in a bit. Oh my gosh, I feel like I have this, sorry, YouTubers, which if you can't see me, I'm literally scratching my nose because it feels like I have a hair on my nose. And so it's so pretty.
It's annoying. That's one of the most annoying feelings in the world, right?
It is. It totally is. So really, you give them the opportunity to have that. And then you and your boss can talk about how you want that support and what you want that support to look like. Look, the bottom line is you are in the driver's seat. You cannot control how people are going to react, because they're going to react the way that they're going to react. But you can let them know, hey, this is really helpful and this is not really helpful, right? You can just give them some guidelines.
Right.
And here's the thing. You, as the person with cancer, you probably don't know, because if this is your first rodeo, you're as in the dark as other people are.
Yeah.
And that's really why I come in and help train managers, so they can help guide these conversations and help you answer questions that you probably haven't even thought of.
Yeah.
So another thing I really want people to know about is to talk to your boss about a work plan. Because you're not going to be able to do the same work that you've done. You're mentally thinking you can, and right now you can. And after 2 chemo treatments, you might be going strong. And that third one may knock you off your feet. And all of a sudden you're going to be like, hey, not working on Monday at all. And I can only fit in Tuesday and Wednesday. And even then you can feel that you're not fully there. So that work plan is in place to help you, your team, and your manager understand what you can accomplish and then set some goals, right? So this, these are the projects you're working on. What project do you want to keep working on? What do you think you can do within this project? And then it's there to say, okay, waving the white flag, this plan isn't working for me. It can work, if you're not able, if you continue not to be able to work, or it can work the other way. You may be like, hey, I need to take all this time off. And then you're like, I actually don't need to take all this time off. I want to come back, not full time, but I want to come back doing these things. So a work plan is really, really helpful, but it needs to be revisited consistently.
Yeah. And, isn't it just so funny? Because having been in management for such a long time, when people say, hey, I need a vacation, the first thing you're like, okay, what's going on? Who else is off? It's like when somebody says, hey, I'm about to go on maternity leave or paternity leave. Oh my goodness. Okay. How much time do I have? And with cancer, especially if it's your first time, like you said, you kind of don't know what you need until you know that you need it. And it's going to be day dependent, where you wake up some days, you are like, I'm good. And then you wake up other days and you're like, I can't even get out of bed right now. Right.
Yes.
Like taking a shower is like the goal for the day.
Exactly.
So I love what you're talking about, and saying about creating a plan and really just being so for those of you who are planners, and I love that you said, like, right now, mentally, you think you can do something, but you're going to get to a point where you may or may not be able to do that. So what I want to really have everybody hear, because this is what you're saying, is please make sure that you put some buffer in that plan, right? And give yourself grace for having it be okay that day, you're just not going to be the rock star at work that you always are.
Exactly. I often say this, warriors aren't warriors all the time.
Right.
Warriors know when they need to step up, and they know when they need to step back and relax and chill and like recharge. And for someone with cancer, that may be 2 days, depending on your treatment, it may be 4 weeks. Yeah. And so the grace is so important. I think the most important thing that I really want people with cancer who are working to know, or even anybody with cancer, is that to run this your way. Yeah. This is an opportunity for you want to look back at this time period and say, I think I did the best I could.
Yeah.
And to really do the best you can. And within work, it's extremely disruptive. And you want to be able to say, I put in the best effort that I could, and I took care of myself at the same time, the best way I could. Right. Yeah. So if you don't mind, I'd love to talk a little bit about what other people say.
Yeah, but before we go there, a quick thing that I want to share that came up for me. The other thing too is that, so a little bit about my story, because I was patient facing in my job, and I worked with metastatic cancer patients. Once I was diagnosed, I had a really hard time staying in that role. Yes. And being able to serve that patient when the whole time, all I could think about was me. Yeah. Right. Like, yep. It's a point in time in your life where it's okay for you to be selfish. Yes. And if you need to pivot into something else, then reach out to your HR, reach out to your colleagues, reach out and try to see if there's something else that you can do. I was really fortunate that I was able to leave the academic field and then go into the biotech industry, where I was able to use my education to still support the cause of cancer without having to be patient facing, so I can heal, right? I found myself crying on the elevator. Like, it took me, and I'm one of those people, like, I need to get hit over the head before I realize, like, okay, stop doing something. And like, cancer is my hit over the head, right? And it was one of those things that I just tried to power through. And I physically couldn't do it. So I want everybody to also listen to your body and what manifests for you, what feelings come up for you. If you are constantly dreading going into work, if you're crying, if you have these emotions that you usually don't have going into work, you may need to just take some time. Yes. Right? Like, take a leave, take a vacation for a week, like whatever that looks like, pivot into a different role. Like, I'm not telling everybody to quit. That's not what I'm saying. Right. But like, there are options out there. Definitely. Yeah. And I think that, oh, please go ahead.
No, I think you're absolutely right. There are a lot of options, and it depends on a lot of different variables. I think the thing is, look, this is an emotional journey. And I
Mhm.
think that we don't acknowledge that enough when it comes to cancer. It's an emotional journey, and it will reveal, like when so just so your listeners know, my husband is the one who had cancer and he died from cancer. And the emotional journey that we went through as a couple, as myself, as his caregiver, him as a person with cancer, was just, I mean, the highs were incredibly high. Like it was like, wow, our marriage is really rock solid in this area. And in this area, not so much.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, those emotions are going to fly all over the place, and they're hard to get a handle on because you in 5 minutes you can go from, hey, I'm feeling so much gratitude, to, oh my gosh, this is happening to me, oh my gosh, what about my children? Like you can just go down the rabbit hole and then bounce back up again. So the emotions themselves can be exhausting. So giving yourself that time and that space, and that's something that you can even ask for at work. You
Yeah.
can say, hey, I need, that office that's not available. Can I like go in there? Can I use it as my crying room? Because I just need a space to go in and go, oh my God, I cannot believe this is happening to me. I cannot believe this is happening. I can't do this. I can't do this. Cry, 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 cry. You feel better after you cry. You can walk out that door and you can function and do that part of your job that you want to do. And I think that's the other thing too, is we forget work is part of who we are.
Yeah.
And the idea of taking time off can be absolutely terrifying. So if that's you, that's okay. You're still a human being, not a human doing. And
Yes.
it's important to, if you're really terrified of that, maybe it's time that you actually do it just a little bit, to take that time off and kind of figure out, right, who am I without work?
Exactly. Exactly. And we also understand that some people, may not have a situation where they can just like get up and go. Like we're not
Yep.
saying that, but
Yep.
definitely work with the people that you trust, that know that you can speak freely with.
Yes.
And try to find some reprieve from the pressure that you have on, from the stress you're dealing with. We're all human, and we all have a point where enough is enough,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so thank you for that, because I love that. And then you wanted to talk about what other people say.
So the number one thing people are going to say, if you need anything, let me know. And when
Yes.
people started saying that to me at first, it felt like I was like, oh, thank you, because all
Yeah.
these people kept telling us, it felt so good. And then I was like, wait a minute, this is not helpful. And it's not helpful for three reasons. One, anything is too big. What is anything? When my husband had cancer, we had a toddler who was in preschool. Did anything mean that my single friend in her beautiful new BMW was going to go to the preschool and pick up my vomiting toddler? No, probably not. Did she mean that she was going to help you to run and get a gallon of milk? Right. So anything is too big. Then the second reason it's not helpful is that person is asking you, who you're out of your mind. You no longer have 52 cards in the deck right now. You'll get them back, hopefully, but you're not dealing with a full deck of cards right now. They're asking you to take apart your day and find that bite-sized chunk of the anything that you might be willing to do. And if you look at your day, I mean, it's huge, all the things that you've been doing by yourself, by the way, or, in your own little unit. And the idea of like taking it apart just feels too overwhelming. But let's just say you do find that one thing. Let's say you just know, like, I need someone to buy me pasta this week, right? That's that one thing. Then you have to decide which of these people who said anything are willing to do this one thing that you know that you really need. When you're extremely vulnerable, you're out of your mind, like, you're like it's like someone called me a well-dressed a raw nerve, like you're walking around and anything anyone says, puts you on edge. And then they're asking you to call them with the anything, with the
Yeah.
idea that they may not want to do it, and if they don't want to do it, they're not going to tell you that they don't want to do it, but you're going to hear it in their voice. They're going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I can get that done for you. So it's just too too much. And so
Yeah.
this is the hard part about being the person with cancer, is that you can say, hey, thank you so much for that offer. I honestly don't know what I need. If you can be more specific about what you're willing to do, that would be really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And we talk about this a lot here on this show. And one of the things too is that if you know that what you want to provide is to go grocery shopping for them, then have that be the thing where you're like, look, let me go grocery shopping for you this week.
Yep.
Give me a list of what you don't want, or, and kind of be very specific. Like, I'll take your kids to school. I'll take them to the
Yes.
park. I'll walk your dogs, right? Those poor
Yes.
pets that get neglected too, right?
Exactly.
So be specific in your requests, because I can't agree with you more that, oh, let me know if you need anything. I will tell you that I never called anybody that's ever
Neither
said
did
that to
I.
me.
Neither did I. And I don't think anyone
Never going
ever
to happen.
has.
It's not going to
Exactly.
happen.
And so here's the thing. I used to say it all the time.
Yeah.
Before I was on the other side of this,
Yeah.
it used to be the first phrase coming out of my mouth. And in the moment, I did mean anything.
Yeah.
But was I willing to go to Home Depot and pick up, like, I didn't have a car that could have gone to Home Depot to pick up 6x6, wall studs that they needed because they're building a new room, because, so I think that is, and it's very true. And, if anyone who's listening to this, who's not a cancer patient, like, think about your day. Car registrations still need to happen.
Yeah.
Those last minute groceries. One of my favorite tips, I think I wrote it in my book, which is call your friend up when you're going to the grocery store. Call them up and say, I'm going to the grocery store. Open up your cabinet and tell me, or your fridge, tell me, what 5 things are you almost out of? I will get them for you. I'll drop them off, right? It's such a simple way to support. It's so helpful, that last minute stuff, because I can't tell you how many times I've gone to boil water, I've boiled water, gone for the pasta, and realized I'm out of pasta.
Yeah.
Right. So that, and then my other one you mentioned was at least. And that's usually the way I sort of diagnosed that was, what happens when you have cancer is people get afraid. And they're really afraid. My husband was an athlete, organic eating, taking care of his body man, and he got cancer. And that freaked a lot of our friends out, because they're thinking, if he can get cancer, so can I. And he was 44 when he died. So people freak out, because it's like, oh my God. I think there has been a study that was shown that when a woman has very like stage 3 or 4 breast cancer, her friends are actually less likely to go get checked than if their friend has like stage 1 or stage 2 breast cancer. So the fear factor is huge in us, and we step back and we want to distance ourselves. We want to figure out, was there a cause? Thus the thing of, it's because you didn't have children. It's because of this. So we want to find a cause to make us feel better and safer. And that at least is that way of distancing ourselves. Right? We're trying to make them feel better. We're trying to distance ourselves from the difficulty of the journey ahead that you might have. So at least it's stage 1. At least it's the good kind of cancer. I cannot tell you how many times we heard that. At least you're living in a city that, you have all these choices. At least your kids are old enough to remember you. I mean, it was, someone said to me after my husband died, a couple months after my husband died, well, at least you're young, you can get married again.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh, well, thank God I didn't think that. I can stop mourning right now.
Right.
It's done. Art who? Who's my husband? So they meant well. But what they're doing, it's not about you and your cancer. It is about their own discomfort with your cancer.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. You spot on indeed. And so let's talk a little bit about this book of yours.
Sure. So I wrote it. So after my husband died, there was a lot of resentment, and I'm sure some of your listeners will be able to relate. There's resentment that people don't step up. There's resentment that people made your cancer all about them. There's a lot of resentment about the friends. This happens to everybody. You lose some people who you expect to show up, do not show up, and you're surprised and you're angry. And then other people who you don't expect to show up, you're kind of like, whoa, 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 whoa. But one of the people is still a very good friend of mine. So so I had to work through a lot of resentment, but afterwards, what I realized is there's a lot of information out there for people with cancer, but if 1 in 3 people are going to get cancer, what are the other 2 going to do to support them?
Yeah.
There were no guides, no books, nothing out there saying, hey, this is what you can do. So I put together this book. It has 100 different tips in it, and it's really simple to read. I didn't want anything where I had to read 4 or 5 paragraphs to get the one thing. I wanted someone to be able to open the book and go, buy her a gas card. Okay, got it. I can do that. Close the book, run away, go buy that gas card. And I wrote it, honestly, I wrote it for myself because I realized that I was that friend who said all the wrong things, who didn't know what to say, who wasn't specific, who kept offering over and over and over again, let me know, let me know, let me know, not understanding that I was not being helpful. And I also wanted to remember the things that people did because I had a feeling that, being a caregiver and diving into this cancer world and, being a widow, I knew people were going to start to come and say, hey, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And so that's how the book came to be. It's just sort of it's meant to be, you can either use it as, take the tips and use it, or you can use it as a kind of a creative thinker, right? Because I've had plenty of people call me and say, hey, none of these tips work for me, but that tip made me think about this, made me think about this, and I'm doing this for this person and they're so happy. So, I've had friends buy it for their friend with cancer and literally hand it to them and say, here, mark the ones that you want, and I will start and tell the community.
I love that.
Yeah. So that's another great way to use it.
I love that. I so many emotions around this because it is so powerful to have such a tool like this available. And you nailed it earlier. You were mentioning about how the people that you expect to be there for you aren't, and the people that you're like, what, like, why are you talking to me? Right?
Yeah.
Like, do I know you?
Exactly.
Are the ones that step up. But, we talk about it a lot here, that give them grace too, right?
Yes.
The people in your family, the people, your inner circle sometimes may not be the ones that really take you through this journey.
Yes.
And they may have their own limitations, like you say, because of their own fear, right?
Yes.
Like, my poor mama, I love her, but I can't go to her with something serious because she is so concerned that I'm her daughter and I'm going through this, that she can't get past it. Right.
Yeah.
And so I learned that I'm like, okay, this is what I can share with her. But when I really need something, I need to go to this person instead, and have it be okay. Right. Like, have it be okay that that is what you're doing. It doesn't mean that they don't love you. It doesn't mean that they're terrible people. It just means that they can only handle what they can handle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, and the thing is, there's a great saying from I'm going to forget his name, the gentleman who has taken over Elizabeth Kubler-Rossi's study, because right, the 5 stages of grief, and we know that there are 5, but we know they don't come in order, then we know they differ, and you can be in grief for your past life that you have now left because you have cancer. But he said the worst kind of loss is your own. And so, we need to remember that in our world, the worst kind of loss to me was the loss of my husband. The worst kind of loss to someone else is the loss of their child, right? Yeah. And I can say, oh, for sure, a child loss, but it's personal. So your worst loss is your own. And we forget that may not be the worst loss for somebody else. Yeah. And so, in that way, it can be a very isolating journey. But I will tell you what, I honestly believe 100% that my husband was able to leave this earth peacefully because he saw how much support we had. Mm-hmm. He knew that we were going to be okay. And I am not here because I'm super courageous and I dealt with his death and I was like, roar, I am here because of the hundreds and hundreds of little things that people did. It was like, I call it act of love, because it was like, here's a lasagna. I love you. I'm picking up the kids and taking them to ice cream. I love you. I'm taking your husband to the cancer treatment center. I love you. I'm bringing him a new set of shorts because he soiled his other ones. I love you. Like, all those were acts of love, and every single one of them mattered. They made a difference. Now, the other side of it is you have to let that in. And that's the hard part about this journey, is saying, because what happens is people show up at your door and they're telling you you're worthy, right? They're telling you you're a good person. They're telling you that you matter to me. And that message, especially when you have cancer, is coming in quite frequently a lot of the times. And it's really breathtakingly difficult to understand.
Yeah.
That you take up space in this world and that people see you and love you and want to help.
Yeah.
And it at first, I told my friend, so we were getting dinners every single night. And, when people bring meals, we were a family of 5, people were feeding families of 8 and 10, right? So we had all this leftover food was going bad left and right. And I said, I just need to shut this down. Like, I can't do it. I can't take all this. I can't take all this help. And she said, you're being very selfish. And I was like, what do you mean I'm being very selfish? Like, my husband has cancer, And she's like, Kim, people love you. People love art. People love your kids. And this is the time that they want to show it. They forget it. We all forget about showing it in our lives on a regular basis. If you don't let them show it, you are like shutting them off. Like, that's not, you're telling them that's not okay, not only for you to be loved, but it's not okay to share their love. Like, you're doing a disservice to your community. And I never looked at it like that. And when I looked at it like that, I was like, okay, can we just do meals 3 times a week? So it's a really hard message. You who live your life, who don't think you matter, you say good morning to your mailman every single day. Your mail person is going to want to like buy you a gift card, and you're going to have to say thank you. There's a law of reciprocity. And we often think, right, if I do something nice for you, the rule is, and it's just this law that kind of exists with us, you're supposed to do something nice of equal or greater value back to me. Well, here's the thing, people, you are on the other side of the law of reciprocity. You've already done something nice for somebody. Those people who come into your life are now coming into your life to pay you back. And you just have to accept it.
I love it. It's so powerful, so true. That is like the message that I want everybody to hear, because we often forget that it's okay to receive, right? We're so busy doing that. We're just like, we're fine, right? And it's really okay to just be open.
And in that receiving, you're also giving them permission to receive. I cannot tell you how many people after the fact came to me and said, watching you do what you did allowed me to say it was okay for me to get help and to receive help. So like the repercussions of your saying yes and thank you are really powerful. You could be changing somebody's life, and so it's one of those karma things, or whatever you want to call it. I believe that's what God put us on this earth to do, is to take care of each other. It may not be in the direct way that we think of taking care of each other, but by saying yes, you're giving someone else permission to say yes. And you're also allowing them to tell someone else that it's okay to say yes. What a beautiful thing that is. You're saying yes to love. And I just love that.
I love it too. I love it. I love it. I love it. And we believe that through crisis, we can still keep a positive mindset and a positive outlook. And I can't think of a better way than to be accepting of love.
Yes. Oh, you're so right. That's so true. Absolutely. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your time today. Now, how can people find you?
Well, first of all, Lori, thank you. So I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram. On Instagram, I'm at 100 Acts of Love, the number 100. If you want to download for your friends 5 things never to say to anyone with cancer, go to my website at 100actsoflove.com. Again, that's the number /what not to say. You can download it for free. You can download it lots of times. You can send it to your friends. You can send your friends to my website. Tell them, tell your boss, tell your neighbors. I not only tell them what not to say, I tell them why it's not a good thing to say, because I believe and understand taking that apart, it's really important, and what to say instead. So it's a really good, powerful start for anyone who just feels really, really lost. You can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. And I say this to all, anybody. If you have a question, if you're just not sure, if you don't know how to talk to your boss, boss, your coworker, someone said anything, please reach out to me, message me on Instagram or on LinkedIn. I will have a conversation with you and we can talk about how to help you. Look, this is an amazing journey in your life. And I don't mean it's amazing because it's hard, it's terrifying, and it's also both beautiful and, it's just clarifying in ways. And it's okay. We all need help going through this. It's not something that I've ever been able to do. I didn't do this alone. And I'm here to support and to help you answer any questions you might have. I'd be more than honored to support. So please do reach out.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your beautiful soul and being of service.
Oh,
Thank you.
No, I just want to pay it forward. I was lucky enough, and I just really want people to have that same, feel that same love. So thank you. Thank you, Lori, for what you do. I listened to a few of your podcasts. I love what you do. And I'm really grateful you're out here because women, people need you. People need to hear what you have to say. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.